talking about defending bottom side control. And so the first thing, we're going to be talking about the frame and hip escape, but that framing part is super crucial because this was something that I never did correctly until Rob taught me how to do it properly. You cannot allow somebody to ever cross face you, ever control your head, and you got to be turned at the right angle. And so let's break it down. It's really important to note that in side control, your opponent is beside you. It's pretty crazy, I know. But if I'm on my back, my ability to bridge, force will travel in this direction, which is useful in mount, but we can see that I'm not doing anything to Rob. But if I, even here, Rob's gonna be a little more up on my chest, so the bridge is kind of nullified. But if I can turn onto my side and I can bridge here, now my hip and my knee can actually start to create movement. So it's really important that from here, we're turning at a 45-degree angle because this is also going to be the direction that Rob's going to be driving in. So make sure that your knees, your hips, your chest, and your head are all pointing in the same direction. Because if I turn my chest like this, but my knees are still pointed, my posture's broken and I have no base. This was something that just changed everything for me. This leg might even have to be a little bit further back because this is where most of our base is coming from. So now when Rob leans into me, it's not easy, but I'm actually able to hold him back. Our frames, our top arm is coming right across from shoulder to shoulder the best we can. And depending on how long your arm is and how tall your opponent is, it can be across the chest or it can even be kind of going into the throat. Because if it's going into the throat, Rob does not want to drive weight into me right now with choking himself. Where if I'm here right on the chest, Rob can comfortably at least put a lot of weight. He's going to make it tiring for me over time. Here, if it's in the gi, feel free to grab the gi there if you want to. This hand, super crucial. I'm blocking here in the bicep. I'm wrapping around like with my forearm here, almost like I'm grabbing at the tricep, and I'm opening up my elbow slightly here to make sure that I'm accessing a bit of his forearm as a lever here, making it difficult for him to pummel in. If I do this correctly, but he can grab my head, oh no, my arm's just trapped and it's painful. I need to make sure that I'm blocking here. If I just block like this and my hand's kind of weak, he's gonna be able to drive through it. And if he pummels in, I lose. So this elbow's tracking, so as Rob tries to move with this, I'm here, I'm not ever allowing him to control me. This is the difference of alignment when we're not just talking about position first. Here, I'm in good alignment, Rob's in relatively good alignment trying to beat me, but he doesn't have that control over me. Versus here, side control, where it's the same position, but we can see that my alignment's completely broken and I have a much bigger battle to try and escape from here. We're not going to be talking about really how to recover from that bad of a position. That just goes deeper down the rabbit hole. The most important thing is that you focus on not allowing somebody to control your head. Now I actually have proper frames, a scaffolding created to hold Rob back, so that now I'm going to be able to actually start mobilizing my hips, backing myself away, and then bringing my knee-elbow connection back together. Really important. Frames are to hold our opponent in place while we can back up. It's not realistic for me to be able to push Rob back at this point. He's got gravity on his side. He's got a very strong dominant position. I just have to hold him here with my bones so that then I can recede back to create the space. So here, as I'm blocking Rob, depending on how he's positioned, it's going to kind of dictate how much I have to lift my hip. Here we can see there's a lot of space, so I still have to lift my hip off the mat so I'm not dragging my ass, but I'm able to back away, and then I'm going to look to bring my right knee in up to my right elbow, and even across his body if I can. The more I can just bring my leg in and immediately reestablish guard rather than bringing the shin across, the better. But if Rob's going to be tighter here, his elbow's on the ground. If I don't lift my hips up and I just slide, I'm boxed in. It's so important that when we shrink here, we can see that Rob's leaning a little more over, so at this point my elbow's kind of more placing here, and I'm just emphasizing blocking here at the bicep. I'm going to have to bridge and lift my hip to get his elbow off the mat, to create that space down at the ground, so that now my hips can move backwards and down through that space. And now through here, a lot of guys are going to be trying to close this distance quickly, so I'm bringing my right knee up to my right elbow as much as I can. And I want you guys to try and resist the urge of pushing away, because that Toriano pass is very strong. As I take this knee elbow connection and I try to push away like this starts to open up the space, and Rob's going to be able to occupy that, and I just lost all that hard work that I did. So here, even if he's nice and tight up against me here, I'm resisting the urge of just pushing away. A little bit is fine, but I'm gonna try and do more with my top arm. I'm gonna be trying to do more hip movements here with my leg that's free. And I'm gonna just keep trying to bring this up best I can to get my foot to the hip. Or I can push up at the shoulder here a bit with my knee, as long as I'm keeping nice knee-elbow connection. It's gonna be a battle there. It's not gonna be one specific movement that you're gonna have to do. It's gonna be possibly upwards of 10 different micro movements and adjustments that you have to do to be able to get that back in, because you had side control. You wanna hold that.
The other frame that's really important here is my knee against Rory's hip.
Yeah.
This is great for preventing like any kind of shoulder girdle, neck, head control, upper body control. This is critical to avoid knee ride. If I just do this, Rory's gonna be able to easily go to knee ride and mount me. So in the initial phases, even though we are very concerned with somebody controlling our head, if we're a bit sloppy here and we just bridge, like in this case for no reason, we're offering our partner, again, that undefended space between our hip and our armpit. So while we're busy defending our head, we're keeping this knee tight to our partner's hip. This, even if I'm bridging now, I'm gonna bridge with my left foot and keep my right knee engaged so that I can hip back and put my knee inside of that knee-elbow connection
By
space.
having that knee, that's going to give you an extra connection to drive me a little bit further. Think of it as an extension of your hip. If I just bridge against Rob here, I mean, my height, I can definitely do it. But we can see like where my hip is and how much it's going to travel before we even see Rob move. So here, now I'm starting to actually collide into him. Now I can start to move him. But we see that he doesn't move very much. But if I have this connected, and you can have your knee up in the air, I try, but it's also because of my height, I can have it planted quite tight against his hip and still have this in the ground. So it's loaded now, so that as I start to bridge, I'm going to continue to knee him and create that space. And this is going to give us options for a lot of other great things too. The more that I can break his alignment and make him post off to the side before trying to escape, that's the power of that bridge too. If Rob's here, super strong, and I'm just trying to hip escape, nothing's happening. Even if I lift my hips a little bit, nothing happens. But if I can make him, and even if he posts his hand on the mat, now I know that that hand is not controlling me. My ability now to recede and create more space and be able to get myself back to a powerful guard is huge. So it becomes that alignment battle. Escaping dominant positions is very difficult. Even if you make every right move on the bottom, if Rob makes every right move, he still wins. And so that was another thing for me, that if you're sparring side control or mount and you're on the bottom working on your escapes and you only escape once or even none and you just survive, especially against skilled practitioners, you're still doing all right. This isn't something like an armbar or you in dominant position where you should be hitting reps just over and over and over and over again. There is no easy answer to escape these positions. So you got to put the work in, and you got to do the best you can to keep yourself in strong alignment at all times. Otherwise, you're probably just going to die in these bad positions.